Hey there. If chaos had a home address, it might be the AFC South. 3 teams blew up their rosters, and the fourth one, the Colts, are still stuck in a toxic relationship they just can't quit.
Yeah. The Colts bringing in Daniel Jones to compete with Anthony Richardson. They're doubling down on their bad quarterback play. Meanwhile, the Texans raided free agency and the draft like they're in a win-now mode, even if they're not quite sure who's going to be playing running back for them. The Jaguars are hoping their musical chairs coaching strategy finally pays off. And the Titans, well, they're going to try their best.
Sort of. I'm Judy, he's Quinten, and this is Fantasy Football Game Plan. Today we're breaking down the AFC South, the most unpredictable division in football, where injured veterans, questionable rookies, and high upside long shots are all battling it out for fantasy relevance.
Yeah, we'll talk about whether or not you can trust Anthony Richardson if Woody Marks is anything other than a third down back, and whether Brian Thomas Jr. is going to go high enough in drafts. Plus, we're going to dive into, is Travis Hunter actually going to play wide receiver? Is there any buzz for a potential sleeper with Brendan Strange? And if Cam Ward is actually going to show some success in year one, or if it's more just a development year. So let's go ahead and dive in, AFC South style, confusing, chaotic, and oddly compelling.
All right, AFC South in general, all the teams except the Colts made a ton of changes to their roster. The last couple of years, the AFC South has produced some of the best values in fantasy football. Nico Collins in 2023 and Brian Thomas Jr. in 2024. So let's see if we can find that sleeper hiding in this AFC South mess. Shall we talk first about the Colts?
Yeah, let's get them out of the way. We are both Colts fans. I think we are the two perspectives from Colts fans. So let's dive in right back into the quarterback battle. We got Richardson versus Jones. Do you have one that you're preferring to watch out there on Sundays?
No, I would have preferred they did something else. I can't believe we are literally talking about Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, and they're competing.
Yeah, I can't say the Daniel Jones move was my favorite. I was actually kind of hoping that they really didn't have depth at the quarterback, so that if Anthony Richardson didn't work out, we'd have a complete blow-it-up year and start anew. But I actually think this roster has enough pieces to remain competitive. We saw them get to 8 wins last year, and that was good enough for second in the division, and that was with terrible quarterback play already. So can it be better this year?
I think it's the same this year. They basically didn't touch anything. I feel like we are just taking the same team into this year again, and they're trying to sell me on Richardson again. I looked up kind of last August, what was the buzz about Anthony Richardson. And, it was all about his rushing abilities electric, his arm strength elite. And I'm tired of being sold Anthony Richardson. I'm just done. I'm ready to move on.
One of the biggest busts in fantasy last year. At some points in the offseason, he was going as high as quarterback 5 in a redraft. And people were selling him as if he was an already developed quarterback and not the absolute wild card that he showed on Sundays. So if we look at their personnel, we can expect that it's going to be pretty similar. We've got Shane Steichen still calling the plays there. They ran pretty close to league average as far as 11 and 12 personnel goes. So there is a lot of times where we're going to see a lot more Tyler Warren baked in, their talented first-round rookie tight end, where they did not have good tight end play last year. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to have significant improvements in the accuracy so that we can sustain drives and make this a high-scoring team.
Yeah, I don't know why we are so insistent on either an old quarterback. We've gone through Phillip Rivers and Joe Flacco, and now we're just enduring year after year of Anthony Richardson, and we'll sprinkle in a little Daniel Jones. The Colts can't seem to figure out that they're in a bad relationship and move on. I don't get it. Maybe bringing in a tight end is going to magically fix Richardson, but I don't think so. And that was really the only change to this offense.
So, yeah, as far as other changes, they had a couple of offensive linemen that they let move over to Minnesota. So both their center and their right guard departed and left for Minnesota, but they both replaced internally. So the team members that are now shaping that offensive line were already part of this team. They actually had some experience because both Kelly and the guard missed time last year due to injury. So we got to see how these pieces look, and it actually worked pretty well. The offensive line wasn't the main problem. So I don't think we're going to see a large drop-off from those departures. I think it'll be pretty much consistent O-line play that we've seen the past couple of years. But now it just comes down to, can we get a significant quarterback improvement from what we saw last year?
Do you think that's the only problem with this team?
I think it's by and far the main problem. So if you had to guess what scoring offense this Colts team was last year, what would you throw out?
20th.
Yeah. So they were about 17th last year. So they were the 17th highest scoring team, and that was with terrible quarterback play. If we just get average, we're talking 12, 13, maybe even if it's good, then you're talking a top 10. So if you actually could just magically put Joe Burrow on this team, I think it's an amazing roster, and we would be talking about all these fantasy pieces dramatically different.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but Pittman is no Jamar Chase.
And Burrow's not walking through that door.
Just
Pittman,
down the road,
He is, yeah. But he had a back injury last year. He actually played through a fracture in his back. So he kind of toughed it out and continued to be the main target for the team with Josh Downs right behind him. It was 22% and 20%. I really like Josh Downs as a prospect. He continues to thrive against zone coverage, and I'm actually projecting him to take that step forward this year and become the number one target for this Colts offense. And Tyler Warren to make a dramatic impact year one. So about 15% of that target share.
All right, we moved on to target shares. I don't know. We briefly mentioned the personnel, which we've been doing in the previous episodes, talking about their personnel on the field. But like I think you mentioned already, they don't complicate things. I don't think their quarterback can figure out anything complicated. So we're just going to keep it pretty standard is the situation here. Yeah. Do you think that's pretty accurate?
I think for the target share, we're going to see pretty consistent. They actually wanted to go to the tight ends more. So I think I basically have Tyler Warren taking up and eating that entire tight end target share, but it's staying pretty consistent in the offensive flow. I think he can also even get some carries out of the backfield. But Josh Downs and Michael Pittman are a 1A, 1B, and they are right next to each other. They don't have that clear alpha in this offense. So I do think Josh Downs in year 3 takes over that 1A role, and he's the primary option. He was wide receiver 36 last year, and that was with poor quarterback play.
All right. Well, they're being drafted as wide receiver 47, 48, that range in redraft leagues. Emeka Egbuka is going at around the same range, and I'm much happier taking him.
Yeah, we talked last week about how much we like Egbuka. I think he's a great pick still, but if you wanted to distribute your portfolio, if you're in multiple drafts in best ball and you don't want to be crippled by an Egbuka injury, I do think Josh Downs is a good pick. And really, we should see better QB play in theory, because the two paths here are either Anthony Richardson improves as passer and he takes that starting job, or he gets put to the bench. And we see Daniel Jones, who at least could work the short to intermediate parts of the field reliably. Like we saw Wandale Moore get a crazy amount of targets last year, over 100 targets. So if Josh Downs is getting that kind of intermediate to short work, then I think he could just rack it up in a PPR format.
I don't know. Not a whole lot of fantasy excitement going on here for me. I do have 5 best ball drafts going on right now, which is driving me. There's all slow drafts too. It's loads of fun to keep up with. I just have to, hope DraftKings sends me the alert and I see it whenever I'm up for one of them, and then I can figure it out. So maybe on one of those, I'll sprinkle in a couple of Colts players, but I'm not too excited about it. I am excited about Tyler Warren, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about him and his past. My concern, though, with Warren is rookie tight ends don't usually deliver.
They don't usually deliver, but the past couple of years they have been. And maybe with the COVID and players staying longer in school, we're seeing kind of a shift to tight ends being more pro-ready. And they lined up Tyler Warren all over the field at Penn State. They had him taking snaps at quarterback, at running back, at tight end, at fullback. They just wanted to get him the ball in whatever form they could. So I think he's going to be that joker. I think he's going to be heavily involved for this offense, and he's just a sure hand that this team needs.
I'm excited about him. This is kind of Ballard's last chance with me. If the season doesn't work out, I think we're cleaning house.
That is kind of why I think Anthony Richardson will get the starting job over Jones, is because this team just has so much more investment in his success. It's such an indictment on Ballard if the person that you took 4th overall a couple years ago is this much of a bust that you're starting Daniel Jones over him week 1 in his 3rd year. So I like taking Anthony Richardson late with your last pick in a best ball draft. He's going around pick 191, and players you're talking in that range might not even see the field. Or if it's your last round in a redraft, you're probably going to cut those players week 1 anyways for the waiver wire additions. And the upside, we talking about a developmental quarterback, and we see quarterback surprises every year. Teams that gave up on their quarterback too early. We saw a monster year from Sam Darnold last year, who no one thought that was possible. So to have a top 5 upside that you can grab in the last pick, I think it's worth a couple shots.
All right. We're not going to debate Darnold now. He's with another team. He's still not a franchise quarterback. I'm ready to give up on Richardson. He is not a franchise quarterback. He is not that level. And I'm ready to hit the reboot button. Let's move on to the teams that are hitting the reboot button. And also in the AFC West, which I like a lot more than this division, there are a lot of people going late in those best ball drafts that I would choose over Richardson. But we'll get to those in another episode.
At least for the next 3 teams, we won't have to debate on who their starting quarterback is.
This is true. That's very true. Even the poor Titans, which I still feel bad for, but we can go through it anyway. I didn't pull the lines for these teams. I don't know if you happen to know them. I'm pretty sure I'm going on the under for the Colts.
I would guess. I think last time I saw it was about 7.5 for the Colts.
That sounds pretty accurate.
And for me, I'm going to lean towards the under. I think it's a thin bet that we see better quarterback play, but I'm not willing to completely rule it out.
Yeah, I feel like the lines get skewed on the over because most people want to bet the over. And it may drift a little bit that direction because the money tends to go on the over. So the under is perhaps the better bet in a lot of cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why people just want to be positive on something. Anyhow, let's move on to the Houston Texans, which is a little bit more positive in the AFC South. CJ Stroud had a rough second year for his career, and now he's being drafted at QB 17. I don't really think that's fair to him. Last year, he was going really high in the drafts, and then he didn't have such a good year, and he had a lot of injuries to his wide receivers, and somehow that's all Stroud's fault.
Yeah, we saw the potential his rookie season, but then with really poor O-line play, and I think he was a little overvalued in drafts last year, and because he didn't meet those perceived expectations, we're now penalizing him this year, and he's actually kind of swinging back into being a value and someone I'm interested in taking in drafts.
I I'm with you on that. I agree. I'm looking at him going, I don't know that you should be down here. He does have a new offensive coordinator coming in this year with Nick Caley. Caley's mostly been a tight end coach for his career with the Patriots and the Rams. He coached Gronkowski and he went to 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots. He was a pass game coordinator for the Rams. Any increased tight end usage, you think? Or what were the problems in 2024?
Yeah, we had another McVay understudy. I don't think the play calling was creative enough for this Texans offense last year, and it really just didn't set up Stroud well. And so they're bringing together kind of that Rams. If they do bring over the Rams system entirely, we're going to see a lot more power running. They did bring in Nick Chubb to complement Mixon, which we'll get into later, but we should see that power running and more spread action. So we'll probably see a lot more 3 wide receiver sets. The Rams actually led the league last year in 3 wide receiver sets. So it's very likely that we see a lot of Jaden Higgins, their rookie, to complement Kirk and Nico out there.
Yeah, their roster changes, bringing in a couple rookies and Christian Kirk at wide receiver, kind of are indicating they want more wide receivers on the field, and they're going to have to be a little bit deeper or stay healthy. But yeah, that personnel chart looks pretty straightforward and more of kind of the same, which is a little bit concerning for me. But let's talk about the running backs, because I don't get it. Mixon is hurt. I'm not sure he's going to be even back to start the season. He's 29 years old. He's already on the NFI list, dealing with a right ankle injury that he's going to miss extended time. And they called it a frustrating foot injury that he's been dealing with all off season. Then he's backed by Nick Chubb, who I love, and I'm so happy to see him return. But he's also age 29, a little bit over. How are they going to lead this backfield, or should we just go ahead and skip to the rookie Woody Marks?
Bringing in Chubb and Woody Marks, it does kind of tell us that they're bringing over that Rams running game, which, even though it might not be the most efficient and we might not have as many burst runs, they just want to have some plays where they're going to run over you and kind of get to play physical, keep you on kind of that back foot so that you can't just pin your ears back and get after the passer. I think they just want to have that balance more this year. And bringing in Nick Chubb, having Woody Marks. Woody Marks is definitely a lot more of a speedster than Chubb or Mixon. He's a smaller back, but if you get him in space, he can break one open to the end zone. But Chubb, who knows what he has left after he's had some brutal injuries through his career. I mean, if he can have even a spark of what we've seen earlier with Nick Chubb, then that would be amazing. But honestly, at this point in his career and everything he's been through, I'm not really counting on that. I think we're just going to see a durable, dependable running back that's not going to turn it over and allow them to just bring balance to this rushing game.
I'm afraid that we have a lot of injury waiting to happen in this backfield. And if we go to Woody Marks, he's also well known for pass catching abilities, but he doesn't go very far. Only 2 of his 261 catches in college went for more than 20 yards.
Wow, that is not a good ratio, and it's kind of weird because you watch some of his outside runs and he has that vision, but I guess when he's focusing on catching the ball, it's tough to string it together. So we are also going to see these running backs running behind a completely brand new offensive line. So there is only one returning starter here, and even that person isn't in the same position they played last year.
All right, so now we get a pair of rookie wide receivers on top of it. This team is all shaken up. It's kind of fun. They want to win. They want to give Stroud the best shot they can, is what it seems like. Yeah,
and it is those Iowa State rookie wide receivers. So we have Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. It is interesting. Those were the 2 that they sought in the draft because Jaden Higgins, his pro comp even before he was drafted to the Texans was Nico Collins. He's this big frame, 230-pound wide receiver that it was a little strange that whenever you're watching Nico, he plays big. He plays with power. He plays with speed. But Jaden Higgins doesn't seem to fully know he's that big yet. Like, when I was watching him, he doesn't quite have that same contact balance that Nico Collins does. He's definitely a great route runner and going to be an interesting option in those 3 wide receiver sets, and especially as he develops into that system. And then Noel probably will be almost exclusively a backup to Christian Kirk, I think, to begin. He's more of that slot wide receiver and will probably just take snaps when Kirk's off the field.
I've actually heard during training camp that Jalen Noel is having a really good training camp and may climb his way up on that wide receiver depth chart and beat out Kirk. Kirk's has finished as a top 30 wide receiver just once in 7 seasons. And Kirk had a season-ending collarbone fracture last year, though, in week 8. So he is coming back from that injury. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do. Tank Dell is out this year after
he's
he
not
tore
going to play
his,
a snap this year.
He tore his MCL, LCL, and ACL December 21st, and he's been going through multiple surgeries to repair that. We hope that someday we'll get to see Tank Dell back on the field, but that kind of injury is really tough to come back from. Dalton Schultz, is he a tight end on your radar at all?
He's someone that I'm taking at the tail end of best ball drafts if I already have Stroud and just want a different piece in this offense, but not a high priority. I think as far as if we're looking for the fantasy values on this team, it's more staring us right in the face of Nico Collins and just having confidence of taking him early in drafts. I think he's overdue. We haven't seen his best season yet. We've just seen these glimpses of remarkable games. But if he's actually able to stay healthy throughout the whole season, I think he has potential to have 1,400 yards, 10-plus touchdowns, and be a true dominant number 1 receiver.
I think he does too, and there's no way that happens without Stroud having a better season than QB 17.
Yeah, he is undervalued right now, and the rookies offer some upside if you want later in the draft. Just kind of take your pick. If Higgins was already taken, throw on Noel, and someone that you're just kind of monitoring early in the season. You're not really expecting much, but really might provide value later in the season.
All right. Shall we move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, they're pretty fun to talk about this year.
They are. They, too, kind of shook up their roster, and Trevor Lawrence is going around the same quarterback time as CJ Stroud, QB 20. He's getting his 3rd head coach with Lim Cohen as he enters his 5th season. He's coming off shoulder surgery to repair his left non-throwing shoulder. They kind of shut him down at the end of last season. At first, he was going to play through that shoulder injury since it was his non-throwing shoulder, and then he got a concussion in December, and they just said, you know what, it's not happening this year. Let's go ahead and get you fixed up. I'm a little worried about the coaching changes. Cohen inherited a great offense in Tampa Bay and didn't mess it up last year. I don't know how much he enhanced the offense that he inherited. And looking at his career, he's been with a different team every year since 2020. Didn't do a whole lot before 2020, but every year has been somewhere different. And they weren't all moves up.
So he's kind of bounced around. He was at Kentucky, and then he did a year with the Rams. I think he was actually brought in from McVay. McVay really liked what he was doing and was looking for some new ideas and brought Cohen in. And then he brought those ideas back to college and back to the Kentucky system. He actually was part of the reason Will Levis got drafted so high. He was his play caller at the time. And then came to Tampa Bay, but we did see Tampa Bay go from Canales to Cohen, and now we're going to have a new offensive coordinator, play caller in 3 years, and they've had continued success. We did see Baker's best year last year. Do you think there's at least a possibility that we get Trevor Lawrence's best year and that kind of fulfillment of the promise of his first overall pick years ago?
You know, I'm hoping so. I'm rooting for him, and I think he has it in him. Cohen's just new, and his offensive coordinator, Grant Udinski has been an assistant, but this is also a giant step up for him. I'm super hopeful, and I really love that the Jaguars gave a chance to someone new and that they didn't bring in somebody else that was a losing head coach already. He gets Trevor Lawrence and he gets Brian Thomas Jr., and that's a pretty good base to build on.
And they went up and made some splashy moves in the draft, too, to get him that one extra weapon to try to push this offense over the top. So we have Travis Hunter as the big question mark of how much is he going to play in each position? What's his utilization even going to look like on that offense? But it is a fun weapon for Lawrence.
It is. It's going to be a lot of fun. So what kind of personnel does Cohen like to play versus what Trevor Lawrence has been dealing with the last year?
Mainly 11 personnel, really not too much different between year over year. The main difference that we can see is that the Bucs last year used a lot of 2 running back sets where they would have both Rachaad White and Bucky Irving on the field. And we kind of have a mess of a backfield in Jacksonville with 3 guys that are all probably going to take snaps every single game. We're probably going to see a lot of 2 running back sets where we have multiple of them on the field to just give options and give more for the defense to try to figure out.
You think last year we were going, wow, the Tampa Bay backfield is a little bit of a mess and we don't know who the lead back is here. And then it was just all fantasy goodness pretty much from all the running backs that were there.
Yeah, both met expectations. Bucky was the big story, but Rachaad White secretly had a great season too.
He did. And Sean Tucker threw in a spectacular game there one week as well. Now we get 3 running backs. So let's go ahead and run through the running backs. We've got Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, who was on speed dial on the waiver wires last year, and now rookie running back Bashal Tutin.
Yes. So it is actually a pretty similar situation to what we saw with the Bucs last year. We have an inefficient veteran that everyone kind of wants to be replaced. We have an exciting rookie that brings a lot of speed to the table. And then we have Tank Bigsby, who was actually very good on the ground last year and with his carries and with his touches. But we just saw not enough offense for any of them to be valuable in fantasy. If we just see the overall team be a little bit better, then yeah, there is potential where it's similar to the Bucs that we're having 2 of these guys on a weekly basis be valuable plays. So I do like, if anyone was given the full workload, I think Bashal, the rookie, would be the most interesting one, or actually Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby was really good on the ground, and I think he's better in the pass than people give him credit for.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll see. Etienne's a little bit younger than I tend to remember he is. So I feel like this could really be using all of the running backs, or he's going to go with the hot hand of the week, which is kind of how Tampa Bay started out last year was, oh, I'm going with whoever's hot. Then it just seemed to be a lot of Bucky Irving. But like you said, Rachaad White was in there a lot on the pass catching downs as well. So maybe we will see a lot of Tank Bigsby. Would you rather take one of the 2 of Bigsby or Tutin? They're both going around RB 43 and 45. Or would you rather pick up somebody like Isaiah Guerrero in San Francisco at RB 48, who, if McCaffrey goes down, is the clear back?
Yeah. And the 49ers drafted another rookie, and Shanahan loves his wild card and putting someone in the doghouse. And so I don't even know if it's guaranteed that Guerrero is in the back, the true backup for McCaffrey. So I think I would lean towards Bashal Tutin's upside of what if he is this year's Bucky Irving, and we see that success. So that would just be the hope.
That's true. I can't wait to get to the 49ers and discuss them. All right, let's go through the target share and tell me about Travis Hunter and what you think.
Yeah, so last year we got to see Brian Thomas Jr. immediately contribute and was dominant. And he was kind of overlooked last year in drafts, and no one really wanted to touch Jacksonville, and no one really thought he would be able to shine enough as a rookie. But he immediately commanded about 25% of the target share and got it done with Mac Jones. I think he's going to hold on to that and probably expand that role even a little bit more since Liam Cohen has been talking him up about, I got to get this guy the ball and find ways to scheme him open as much as possible. He is so dangerous in the open field. I do think Travis Hunter comes in as that immediate number 2. So if we're looking at him just as a wide receiver, he won the best wide receiver in college football last year. He would be the highest drafted wide receiver since Calvin Johnson. And he is dangerous. I mean, everyone that watched him, he is explosive. He is athletic. And anytime he gets the ball in his hands, he can take it the full field. So I like him as that number 2. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is still that 1, but especially if they're kind of keeping his snap count low.
I can't wait to see this team on the field. I don't know what it is, but I think we all thought that the talent on this team was so much better than they delivered in wins. I mean, they only won 4 games last year, and I know there were a lot of injuries, but still, going into the season, I thought I keep thinking the Jaguars are going to be good, and it's been disappointing. So now we get the whole another coaching staff, which I've never bought into the coaching staff so that they have brought in. This is the first one that it's like, okay, maybe we're actually going to get to see what Trevor Lawrence can do. And all the supporting staff is there. So we need to see a significant improvement on this team this year.
Yeah, this is kind of
they did lose Evan Ingram. So now Brenton Strange is going at tight end 25. Is that too low, or is it just the Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter show?
Yeah, Brenton Strange is a little too low for where he's going. I don't think he's going to be a top option for tight ends. There are just so few of them. But the difference between, tight end 12 and tight end 6 is pretty minimal. And I think he can be in that range because he should be a reliable option. We saw him have a few good games and get hyper-targeted when Evan Ingram was injured last year. So I think he's going too low, and I'm very happy to stack him later in drafts that I pick up Trevor Lawrence.
I think I'll be looking for him at the end of my best ball draft, maybe, instead of Anthony Richardson or any of the Colts wide receivers.
And lastly,
anything else, or should we move on to the basement dwellers?
Well, lastly, we just got what their odds are. So right now they're sitting right about that 7.5 line. How are you feeling there?
I'm actually feeling better about the Jaguars than I am about the Colts, but I tend to be negative on my own team, and I know that. So I know that's kind of bad for me, but I feel like the Jaguars have a better team than the Colts. And at this point, I like their coaching because I like the unknown better than what I've been getting.
Yeah.
So I'd go the over.
Talking it through, I'm leaning the over too. Compared to the other divisions we've talked about where we have the Bills and we have the Ravens, and then we have everyone else. I think this division's a lot more competitive and probably one of the divisions we're going to see 3 teams in that 7 to 9 range. Maybe there's not that clear elite winner of the division, but you have a lot more depth in this division. So I'll take the over.
All right, we're both on the over on the Jaguars. What was the line for the Texans? I don't think we had that one.
The line for the Texans was sitting at 9.5 for the Texans. So can they get double digits this year?
I mean, somebody's going to get 10 wins, I think, in this division. And if I had to put my money on somebody, it'd be the Texans. So I guess I go over.
Yeah, that defense is going to be so good, too. So I think it helps them get to the over. It's going to help a lot if they have Mixon healthy for a majority of the season. So, but I'll lean the over.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Tennessee Titans, the last team remaining. What is their line? Let's just start there.
So their line
3.5, 4.5.
Yeah, we are starting at a low bar. This was the worst team in football last year, and they did kind of earn it. But this year, the bar that Vegas is setting is it's at 6.5 wins. Which seems a little high. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going under on them.
I'm going to take the under on that too. I think the goal for this team is not to win a lot of games. I mean, that would be nice, but it's more just to figure out who are the people that are actually going to be part of this franchise for the next couple years.
They're starting off a little bit rough. I was reading about in training camp. Cam Ward had a rough practice on Tuesday, going 11 of 26 and 3 interceptions on 7-on-7 drills. Maybe their defense is really good. Treylon Burks, one of the wide receivers, he was down on the list, but he still broke his collarbone, so he's out a solid 8 weeks. He's not going to be an option.
They released him afterward, too.
Oh, did they? I missed that. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
they fully have given up on Treylon Burks.
And then Calvin Ridley left practice on Wednesday with an undisclosed injury that we'll have to wait and see what comes out. And I know he was their leading wide receiver choice, and I'd picked him up in a few places in best ball. So we'll have to wait and see what his injury is, and hopefully it's nothing too big of a deal.
Yep. We actually have the same coaching staff. We have a new GM here, and we should really expect to see pretty similar personnel grouping, but we didn't actually see what Brian Callahan's true scheme was and what that offense looks like when it's good. This team had so many problems on the O-line and a combination of bad quarterback play that it earned them the number 1 overall pick. So hopefully we can just see what this offense is supposed to look like this year.
Yeah, Will Levis was not it. I think that's the only thing that makes me feel better about Anthony Richardson was if it wasn't Anthony Richardson, it was Will Levis, unless they traded up. And that wasn't a good solution either. So maybe we should have just punted and found, another Phillip Rivers to play or and waited till the next year. But we didn't. And let's not go. Sorry, I drug us back to the Colts. So let's talk about Cam Ward. Can he step into this quarterback role and deliver anything that's relevant?
Fantasy relevance, probably not. Maybe we can get burst games, especially from one of the rookies and some of these kind of hidden prospects. He is a gunslinger. He loves tossing it deep, and he had a lot of success at Miami last year. But I think we'll probably see a lot of turnovers, too, for him to be a consistent fantasy option. He does sometimes have those "what are you doing" plays, and he is a rookie, so he's going to adjust to the NFL. I think ultimately, I do believe in Cam Ward. I just don't think it's going to click this year.
You don't see him being CJ Stroud on year 1?
No, but if we look at some of the past first overall picks, they have pretty rough first seasons. There's not a lot that have immediate success because there's a reason. This entire team was bad, and he's not really set up for success. So it's more just looking for those flashes. Can we get those burst plays that can help us win like a daily fantasy lineup?
Yeah, maybe we can. The backfield, I'm not super excited about. We're going again with Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears. Julius Chestnut, clear share. We saw it last year. You expect anything different from the running backs?
It should be pretty 50-50. They did bring rookie Kellel Mullings, which I actually really liked him out of Michigan, but he's a 7th-round pick. It would take an injury above him for him to even see the field. If there is an injury, maybe he's a fun waiver wire pickup. But besides that, I don't think any of these running backs should be drafted high. They're currently going running back 27 and running back 40. But even then, I think there's options I prefer in those ranges better.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm actually really surprised running back 27 is where Pollard's going. We mentioned briefly on some of the wide receivers, but let's go ahead and break down where you think their target share is going to land. They have Calvin Ridley, who was there last year, and they brought in Tyler Lockett as well.
They did. That is now the oldest wide receiver duo in the league. Both of them are over 30. And then we have the 2 old guys and basically a bunch of rookies. And then Okonkwo, their tight end. It is going to be interesting to see if any of those rookies statted out and any of them step up. So right now I have them projected all for kind of a similar small piece, but I know that's really not going to be the case, that one of these will probably be a lead wide receiver option and kind of step forward. So our options to really take that leap are Alec Iomanner. We also have Chimere Deke, that both rookie wide receivers. They have an undrafted free agent, Xavier Restrepo, that came out of Miami with Cam Ward. And then Gunnar Helm is an interesting receiving tight end option. So I'm curious when he's on the field if he gets any targets.
Yeah, I guess we're just going to have to wade through training camp and see if anyone stands out. And then we can do, our overreacting to training camp. This guy was on the field the whole time. But you know what? Since it's a bunch of rookies and maybe we will see everybody playing other than Ridley, who they don't want to get hurt.
He does get an injury, then it's going to be a free-for-all on who steps forward there.
That could be fine. But otherwise, not much I'm drafting. I'll be watching them for the waiver wire pickups, but I'm not expecting a whole lot out of this group. So how's this division finish? How are you ordering them?
I think I believe in Houston's defense enough to have them first. And then I like the Jags, then the Colts, and then finally these Titans.
I have the same outcome. I was worried that you were going to switch the Jaguars and Colts, and it's like, yeah, I don't see that happening.
I thought about switching Jacksonville and Houston if they can actually get that clear development out of Trevor Lawrence and what we've wanted.
That could happen. That would be interesting too. That would be exciting to watch. So I think that's it for the AFC South. Hit the subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you're thinking. Who are you picking? How do you have this division finishing? We've also got ladies fantasy leagues forming at Fangirl Football. So jump over there if you'd like to be on a league.
On the next episode, we'll finish off the AFC with the West, where we got a lot of fun teams to talk about, and it's going to be a true debate on who's going to win that division. They've really made some strong offseason moves, and we'll see if anyone can top the Chiefs this year.
Yeah, that'll be fun. If you missed our last two episodes, we broke down the AFC East and the AFC North, so go back and check those out. Thanks, and we'll see you for the West.